All right, I'm what stands between you and your dinner, so enjoy your salad. Sit back, relax. We're going to have a little honest dialogue tonight about the recipe for exceptional channel leadership. The good news is this next slide I don't need to use because you already had an introduction. But if you don't know me, the last name is said Schijns. Everybody always says Schijns, so I always like to point that out. So I want to address the reality in the room as we get started tonight. Right? How many people, I know you're eating, so use your other hand. How many people at least one point in time during today's content thought, holy, insert your explicative, I'm a little scared? Okay, good. That's a natural reaction. For those of you who did not raise your hands, you need to see professional help. Because if you're not a little scared right now, that's probably more shocking than anything else, because the channel as we know it has changed forever. And we're at a point, quite frankly, of no return. And we need to accept that. The channel is now an ecosystem power play. It's actually becoming more complex and at the same time more interesting. And what it means is that each and every one of you are potentially in the driver's seat for that play. Think about what we're dealing with. We heard Jay, my buddy today, talk about these three kind of spheres of the channel: alliance channels, transactional channels, and influencer or retention or shadow channels. And those channels all coming together, right, is a lot bigger than what we've always dealt with. We kind of dealt with that VAR, MSP, MSSP. We thought our programs got confusing because we had multiple kinds of partners. But now we're basically saying you're going to blow this thing up. And in fact, you're going to have more partners in these outside circles than in the inside circles. And this frankly requires a very unique recipe that will propel you to the top and keep you there in the new channel ecosystem. Now, here's where I hope my speech is different. I am not talking about your company getting to the top, although you may take some of this advice that way. I am not talking about your program winning a 5-star award, although it might. Tonight, I'm talking about you. You made an investment coming here to ImpartnerCon, and it's been a fabulous one. Great content, the ability to see how you can propel your business forward. But tonight is about honoring the investment you made. You made an investment in you to come here to learn to be the best. And that's what's going to keep you in this channel and ecosystem. Because the reality is, as we cease to be purely transactional, purely a sell-through channel, the skills required a little more finessed than straight sales channels in the past. In the past, you were kind of a duplication of direct sales. If you're here as partner enablement, you were basically sales enablement that was enabling partners. In the future, when more than 90% of technology sales involve a partner, when we have so many influence and retention channels, your job and the job of everybody in your company changes. And interestingly, according to the most recent Canalys research, there's been a whole bunch of ecosystem leaders, or CPOs, Chief Partner Officers, named. And none of the ecosystem leaders who were appointed in the tech industry in the past 16 months were former channel chief award winners. They weren't your traditional channel chief, and they weren't promoted from within. So what this means is we're starting to value a different skill. A skill that is more nuanced, that is more finessed. And you know, there's a really good reason this is the case. The game changed. If you change the game from hockey to football, you're not going to be as talented of a hockey player as you would be a football player, and vice versa. And the skills that are needed to win now in our channel have changed. Old ways just are not going to open new doors for you. We have to find a better way. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, because there's some good news in it. The skills that you need can be developed, they can be honed, and you can become purpose-built, if you will, to win. And in fact, many of the very things that held us back in the past are going to propel us forward in this new future. It's just a matter of us all taking kind of a deep breath, acknowledging that fear that we felt earlier today, and deciding that we're going to win. So what I'm going to do in like the next 20 or so minutes while you enjoy your salad and a beverage, I hope, is I'm going to walk through the 10 skills that will empower the ecosystem leaders of the future. But there's a skill that's not on here that I need to talk to you about first. And it's the skill of believing you can do things differently. So I'm going to do a little something with you guys. It's harder for me than you because I'm standing up here with shoes on, okay? So put your right foot in the air. Make it go clockwise. Clockwise is like how the clock goes. Okay. Right hand up in the air. Make the number 6. What happened to your foot? Did it just like on its own go the other way, like some kind of weird thing? Okay, this is called the law of opposing forces. Two sides of your body cannot do, this one side of your body, sorry, cannot do two different things. It's also why it's hard to walk and chew gum, at least for me. So let's repeat this exercise now. Foot up in the air, circle, hand up. Make the 6 now from the belly instead of the top. Now your foot stayed going the same way, right? This is the attitude I need you to bring into the next 20 minutes. It is possible to change the rules. The rules said that your leg had to go in a different direction if you made a 6 and we're turning your leg crosswise. But if somebody, and I like to think it's our team at JSG, can tell you how to break the rules and get ahead, you can actually make the impossible possible. That's the attitude I need you to take into this tonight. That and like probably, you know, enjoying your salad. So let's talk about the first skill. Now, I'm going to tell you this is a reverse list. When I get to 1, 1's going to be the most important skill. I think you've all been trained on this, but I wanted to point it out. And as I progress through the list, the skills get harder. So the first skill is around programs. Your legacy channel program, they're just table stakes now. They're really not a differentiator. So you have a channel program, everybody does. And if you don't have a channel program, well, obviously you need one. But with all these new types of partnerships and with all the economic pressure that we know is coming this year for most firms, most programs need a complete overhaul. Focused on the partner experience, focused on the actual routes and go-to-market, and with forward-leaning metrics. And when I say forward-leaning metrics, I mean it is so time to ditch the fact that you believe your best partners are the ones that last year sold the most and had certifications. It's not true. 5 years from now, 3/4 of those will not be your best partners. We have to acknowledge that the way we did it in the past is not how it's happening in the future. And if we don't acknowledge it, somebody will leave us in the dust. I had somebody challenge me on this last week, and I asked him to go and look at the S&P 500, and that's the top 500 companies in the US, and tell me over the last 50 years how often that list has changed. And the answer is it's about 70% turnover. So there is going to be the same kind of turnover in our top partners. And so we have to think differently about our programs and about how we plumb our programs to appeal to the next generation of partners who are going to influence things for us and make things work better for our company. Now, one side note. Don't overcomplicate this message. You may hear me say, oh my gosh, a whole new program, a whole new everything. Focus first on the smallest changes you can make for the biggest impact, right? These changes, by the way, are often wildly unpopular internally, right? They might be that you're going to unblock all enterprise accounts. We'll talk about that more in a minute. They might be, and I did this at Verizon, that your commission system is so messed up that you decide to just accept what the partners turn in as right and audit it once a year. Whatever your small change is, these changes have to be made. Great leaders will find a way to push through, and they're going to win with data and with numbers. So just last week I was on the call with a CEO, and he was trying to convince me, by the way, which is never easy, that the channel for him was, not as effective as direct sales, and that direct sales, clearly, was the wonderful, and the channel was the redheaded stepchild. And he began the conversation by saying this. And I began the conversation by saying, what's your turnover in your sales team? How often do your sales team hit goal? How many problems did you have with your sales team? I inundated him for a couple minutes with questions about direct sales, none of which he had the answer to. And it changed the conversation. They changed the conversation because I won with data and numbers. The reality was, with his team's sales turnover, with how many lost deals they'd had, with how many retention problems they had with direct sales, they were far better off with the channel. But he had believed some nonsense that someone told him once, who, I don't know, read it in business school or went to a channel event 25 years ago, who believed that it was true, and it just simply wasn't. And so the first thing is, you've got to acknowledge that. The second skill that we all need to work on is our strategic focus. We have been entirely too focused on transactions for too long. And we're in a world now where it's all about multi-directional relationships. And we need to have very unique negotiations with our channels. Processes that drive our engagement onto their bill of materials. Now look, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you right now that the vendors lost control of the channel a couple of years ago. You do not own the channel. The channel owns you. And I think it's probably only a few years out before you're all joining their programs. Not just marketing, but actually joining their programs and having requirements you have to hit in order to be on their bill of materials. So we've got to get that focus and have that data and move your ecosystem strategy into that hyper growth mode. Having that analysis, that understanding of your current partners, and actual data, not what your sales teams are saying, not what your channel teams are saying, but real data. We love working with the team at Partner Optimizer, shout out Dina and Tatiana, to get the right data for our clients. They actually go through and look at existing partners and tell you what's the truth about that partner and what isn't, and help you pick better new partners. And they're optimized to work with the Impartner platform. Data like this is how we have a better strategic focus. But of course it doesn't stop there. Of course it doesn't. There's 10 skills. I'm only on number 3. You also have to adopt a new, fresher management cadence. You have to evolve from QBRs, quarterly business reviews, to relationship business reviews. If you're in charge of partner enablement for your company, this means that you probably automated a certain element of the QBR. You're going to now have to automate the relationship business review, where you use data from great folks like the team at PartnerTap to really put together a relationship business review that says, what markets are we going after, what segments are we going after, and how are we going to measure our success. This is radically different than how you've measured success in the past. It's not a straight line. It makes the scientists in us a little uncomfortable. And that's where that tech expertise comes in. We have to use the tools available in the tech stack that we have, and we have to enable the fact that partners are expanding their tech expertise at the same time. We have to enable these partner-to-partner ecosystems. We have to accept the fact that 30% of sales are going to go through marketplaces and find a way to plumb that into our program and enable co-selling and digital demand generation, and most importantly, and I'll talk more about this in a minute, influencer support. If we believe that we cannot embrace this concept of influence, we will be wrong. Because the key is understanding how to move beyond the transactional. Now, this might be the hardest skill to acquire, but it is critical. This is all around financial acumen. You have to drive discussions in your company that go beyond, I don't have budget for that. How many people heard a good idea today, thought it was great, and thought, I don't have budget for that? Right? This is a common reaction, right? We believe that we have to run to our budget. And that's because often we're looking as an organization at cost of sales. But if we move to lifetime customer cost, something I did all the time at Verizon when I was there, they always measured lifetime customer cost. What does it cost us to keep a customer for a lifetime? And I really look at the cost of that through the channel, particularly for you who are running consumption channels or trying to. The math begins to go the other way. And when you can bring that data to the table, when you can have that financial conversation, when you can shut down that, I don't have budget for it, and instead, here's how I justify it, that's how you win. Now, I'll kind of tell you a little shocking fact. Channel partners game your commission systems. They know the rules, they know how to do it, and they game it. I guarantee you, if you implement something, our friends Fornio are in the other room in the partner area, they can show you they've saved millions of dollars in wasted commission for people. So imagine when you bring back $1 million, $1.5 million of discounts or commissions that you gave away for no reason. You will not have a problem getting budget. This is how people make money. It's about getting the financial acumen skills. If you don't have financial acumen skills, take a course, take a program, text me. I'm going to give you my number at the end and we'll get there. The sixth skill is really around creating demand that matters. Our current demand generation programs have evolved a lot in the recent years. I was talking with someone today who told me they had 4,000 pieces of content on their portal. I want you to think about that. 4,000 pieces. And a couple of you are laughing because you're like, I got that beat. I have 5. You know, we should have like a little competition, you know. Who has the most pieces? They used to do that. Who came from the farthest away? Who has the most pieces on their portal? And who has the oldest piece of content on their portal? Right? So, who has something from, before the 2020s, all of you, right? I was just on someone's portal last week and they had something from 2011. Now, I don't know about you, first of all, I was younger, I was skinnier, a lot of other things in 2011, but there's no way in our industry that something that was on there from 2011 was at all relevant, and yet it was still there. And so we really have to think about how do we use our systems, our processes for demand generation. Demand generation has evolved. We all have these MDF programs that are trying to drive these behaviors in our channels, but most of them are not at all suited to capitalize on the go-to-market routes in an ecosystem. So let's talk a little bit about MDF packages. So think about optimizing your market development funds. Some of you that are small maybe have $150,000. Some of you that are big may have millions that you're spending in market development funds. Think about recreating your program and moving towards digital demand programs that are prepackaged. So imagine at JSG we do a program for search engine optimization. We come in, we do boot camps for the partners, then we do a health check for their website, fix the broken links, optimize it for search, and then they invest in Google AdWords. Now you've got ImpartNer having Google AdWords automated. You can pull this whole thing into a package and say, here's my package. Partners, I'm not going to ask you to make up the marketing anymore because they're horrible at it. And the big ones that aren't horrible at it just want your money so that you can stand up at their golfing event or something and that, they can say, oh, picture, we went on a boat tour. And that's not really what you want to pay for. So the pro tip here is to really be sure to offer MDF packages for your partners that offer high ROI. But also think about offering MDF packages for influencers and influence placement. Let's say that one of your target markets is healthcare. There's an influencer named John Nosta. He's the #1 influencer in IT. If you let your partner contract him to go talk about you and your solution, he's going to have millions of people in healthcare consume that content. Wouldn't I rather pay for that than the latest golf tournament? I kind of think I would. We also need to make no mistake about this next skill. It's an account by account battle in the tech ecosystem. And so I'm going to tell a story here to knit together some of these skills and point out what I mean to you. So about 1.5 years ago, in November of 2021, I guess that's how long ago that was, might have been shorter, I don't know, I've lost track. The team from T-Mobile, who JSG has worked with, took to the stage at CP Expo and they made an announcement. Those of you that were in the panel this afternoon heard Scott Jones say, we said there will be no blocked enterprise accounts. This was a strategic decision that was made looking at their program, looking at the competition, right? The Verizons, the AT&Ts of the world who believed that they owned the accounts, lock out hundreds of accounts to the partners. But T-Mobile said we'll have no blocked accounts. They wanted to win in enterprise. They wanted to win with the channel. They understood what was going on, and they understood it was an account-by-account battle. And they needed the channel partners to stand up to it. And today, there was a little news article about T-Mobile stealing Boeing away from Verizon. And they did it with a partner. Now, I happen to know that partner. And that partner told me that they had approached Big Red about selling into Boeing, and they said the words every partner who's had a relationship for 26 years with Boeing wants to hear. Do you know what they were?
that account's blocked. Our direct sales team, the 29-year-old sales rep who's been here for a year and 1 month, has a fantastic relationship with Boeing, and we're not going to let you in there because it's ours. How's that feel today, Big Red? As an alumni, I gotta tell you, I'm like, are you kidding me? But as somebody who worked with T-Mobile on the program, I'm like, yeah. So if you want a takeaway from this event, they did the financial work that said if we let the partners in these accounts, we'll win more often and we won't lose them. They didn't go simple cost of sales. They did a lifetime customer analysis. They said, we're going to do the marketing and the demand account by account. We're going to pay for account-based marketing. We've done programs with them on that. We're going to pay for social selling so that people know what to do, and we're going to unleash the channel on our accounts. So you want to take away from this? You go back in and talk to whoever's in charge of your sales strategy and just share the article about Verizon losing to T-Mobile and say, look, no doubt T-Mobile has the best network. I agree. But they lost it because they told a partner no. And that's the world we live in now. If you want to tell the partner no, the partner's going to strip you out and bring somebody else in. And the sooner our executives hear that story, the sooner, I hate to say it, we frighten them into understanding that story, the better. Because we are in a battle to retain our customers. And if we want to tell the partners they can't do it, that's silly. So use that example. Afraid to tell the story? I'm going to give you my phone number in a minute. Text me. I'll join that call. I'm happy to tell that story. So I've got a couple of minutes left. I want to wrap up with a couple of other skills. This is one of the hardest skills on this list. I said they get harder and harder. Proactively listening. As a channel, we've trained ourselves to believe that we're listening to partners. We've had partner meetings, right? And we believe that we're listening to them. But in reality, somewhere in the back of our brain, we're going, yeah, but you don't understand. It's really complicated at my company. Like, you don't understand. It's harder than that. And so what I like to do is, rather than just listen to my partners and try to make excuses in my head for why I'm hard to work with, I make it a daily priority to go on Reddit and similar sources like LinkedIn. There's MSP IT groups on Facebook. They talk about stuff you wouldn't believe. Make it a priority to hear the truth. Then leverage your sphere of influence to understand those priorities and share those truths. The next time you do an ops review, put a couple slides up with all the stuff people are saying on Reddit and those Facebook and IT groups. Let the customer, in this case the partner, speak for you. That proactive listening makes all the difference. Now this next one is going to be unpopular with at least somebody in the room, and I apologize already. So this is about how you build your partner community. So many of us are in love with big name partners, and I love them too. SHI, Insight, Optiv, WWT, you name your big name, right? We all are in love with them because we see how much business they do, and we want them to love us and do business with us. How is that going? Not great for a lot of us, right? Not great, but they're a necessary evil to a certain extent because they're big. But here's the thing. Those partners are super big. And I remember this conversation when I was at Verizon. Verizon was $180 billion. And we were having a conversation at the leadership level, and our CEO said, you realize if we want to grow 1%, it's over $1 billion. And I don't want you bringing me ideas that won't grow us 1%. 1% growth, right? These big partners are lucky if they grow at 5%. Now, COVID, maybe they grew higher than that, but on average, they're going to grow about 5%. And if you're a newer vendor or a niche vendor and you're looking to grow with them, this is a super high risk approach because guess what? You're not going to be big enough for that 5% growth they need to do. They're going to need to do that with bigger partners. And so they're going to put you on their line card because if somebody calls and wants it, they want to be able to sell it, but they're not going to be motivated to sell for you. And so instead, I say, listen, go middle class for the win. Look at your regional SIs, look at your folks with 5 or 6 or 7 technical experts, 4 or 5 or 6 salespeople, a little smaller, but they're going to be really dedicated to growing with you, and they'll help you hit your 30% growth goal. The big guys, you got to have them, but they're not going to help you hit your growth goal unless they hit a couple bluebirds, that they work with your sales team, and that's a dangerous strategy. Now, my final skill in my final couple minutes, it's all about influence. I'm a big believer in influence. I'm going to tell a little influence story here to convince you guys I'm right. I decided very foolishly when I was up north this summer to do some work on my house in Florida. And I got new furniture. Got rid of all my furniture. It had been a rental house. It had old furniture, and I'm going to get new furniture. Except during the hurricane that happened 2 weeks ago, the furniture company I bought from decided not to move furniture into Florida. Smart idea. But then they didn't tell us that, and so we were not now going to get furniture until December. So we were going to be living in a house, I guess, in Florida with no furniture because we're going there next week. Through my sphere of influence, I actually knew the CMO of that furniture company, flipped them a LinkedIn note and said, really having a problem here, can you help me? They flipped it to their chief retail officer, I'm getting my stuff Thursday. That's influence. That's influence. Anything anybody else tells you about influence is bullshit, okay? Influence is when you can get someone to do what you want, that you need to do what you want in the minute that matters. And nothing happens in our ecosystem without you leveraging the right influencers. Particularly critical in our current reality. Partners are overwhelmed by vendor options, and so they often turn to their social network for recommendations or information. Now, congratulations to all of you. Raise your hand if you post the LinkedIn stuff that your corporate marketing gives you about your company. Congratulations, you're officially boring. Good, right? Okay, we always wanted to grow up to be boring. I don't know about you, but it's working out good for me. Yeah, that's great that you're posting stuff from your company, but that's not about influence. Influence is really about casting your influence effectively. And it's a combination of I'm pointing at you, your brand, trust, content that engages people, right? Have a conversation about something interesting to people. People begin to follow you. Make the right connections with people. People begin to believe you. Engage with people. People begin to trust you. That's how you cast your influence effectively. Not by reposting your marketing stuff. It's great that you're doing it, but everybody's just going to snooze you rather than listen to you. Have a position. Have something you believe in. For me, it's women in technology. Talk about it. Be open about it. Talk about it on social media. Talk about the great wins you're having with partners. Be a person on social media and you will get influence. So challenge yourself as we leave here today to say, am I an influencer in the tech ecosystem? Because being viewed as an influencer is the key to landing, expanding, and keeping the most senior roles in technology. You know who gets the job? The people that people know. It is no longer about who knows you. It is about, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. It is no longer about who you know. It's about who knows you. And so for all of you that are here, I would highly encourage you to think about that sphere that you are casting. Now listen, I always want to close out with taking some action. So JS Group has never in our history given a discount. Not ever. We've never had to, we've never wanted to. But because of the partnership we have with ImpartnerCON, because of everything that Mark and his team do with us, that Joe and Dave and Chelsea and everybody here does with us, we decided this time, first time ever, to give a discount. So a 15% discount on our services for the next 30 days. Right? Not bad, right? I know you'd be happy. Yay, us. Our influencer program, we have a turnkey program to create your personal company influence sphere in the channel. We have a market action planning where we come in and we bust through your strategy, your program, your partner enablement, your how the heck are you going to do this influence thing, and we come up with the answers and put them on paper. And we can also offer you prepackaged MDF offers to get you some ROI from your MDF, which is going to be very needed this year. I will close by saying two things. This is my cell phone number, 908-883-2020. Take it, take a picture of it, write it down. If you don't text me, I'm going to be super hurt, and I know you don't want to hurt me. So here's my deal for you. Some point in time in the next year, you're going to think, oh man, right? Something's going to happen. I don't know if it's a battle with your CFO, if it's a battle with your channel chief if you're not the channel chief, or if it's just, like I didn't know this was happening and I'm a little confused. Text me. text me. Now, I'm on the East Coast, so if you're going to call me, please don't call at 3 in the morning. But text me. I'm not great about picking up sometimes because I'm on phones, but if you text me, I'll get back to you. Say, hey, it's Bob from this company, and I was at the ImPartner conference. I will get on with any of you who are customers of ImPartner for a free 1-hour call, so will anyone on my team, to help you solve the problem in the minute that matters, because that's what this ecosystem is all about. We're here for each other. We really work with each other, and we help each other. And none of us can really understand what's going to happen and when you're going to be at that minute that matters. But I'm going to close up by telling you a story that I hope will illustrate what I mean by the minute that matters and being able to turn to someone who has the right answer in that moment. So this little story happens in medieval times, and there's a king. And the king has had a bunch of wizards, and they've all been horrible. They never told anything about the future. They never were right about anything. He kept killing the wizards, getting rid of them, and he finally got a wizard that was amazing. The wizard forecasted the drought. The wizard forecasted that someone would attack the castle. The wizard forecasted that the crops were going to be barren. The wizard was amazing. And so the king, he started to listen to the wizard. He listened to the wizard more than he listened to anybody. He stopped listening to the rest of his court. He stopped listening to people that were his advisors, and they got jelly, or jealous, if you want to use that word. They got jealous. And so what they did was they told the wizard that they told the king, my bad, that the wizard was lying. They said he poisoned the water source. He let the people in that attacked the castle. He stripped the crops. He's not a wizard, he's a liar. He's manipulating you. He's making you think what he wants to think. We all work with somebody like this. You're the wizard in this, by the way, in case you're not following me yet. Okay, so what happens? The king calls his evil henchman, says, bring the wizard up, and when I give you the signal, throw him to his death because he's been lying to me. So the king gets in there and he says, you know, I know you're lying, but I want to have a little fun with you first. Why don't you tell me, since you're so great about what's going to happen to me, why don't you tell me what your future brings? What's in your future, great wizard? And the wizard said, oh, my liege, it gives me great pleasure to tell you that I die just a mere 3 days before you. Now, the wizard was smart. He noticed the henchman, right? So he's like, how do I make this important to the king? I die 3 days before you. In other words, if I'm actually a wizard, you're dying 3 days. The king waved off the henchman, put the wizard in the most beautiful housing he could, had doctors see him to keep him alive, and the wizard lived for another 48 years. This is a lightly true story based on the wizard Merlin. So what did Merlin do? Merlin turned the objection around and made it something that mattered to the king. You will have a point in time, I hope, in the next year, where the king tries to turn it around on you. PRM's too expensive. That's not working. You've got to fix all of this. What do you think we should do? When the king does that, please text me. Because I want to help. Thank you.